It's a real dust up here, but we've got a solution that sucks. This week on Blue Collar Woodworking. Since our last episode, a lot has been going on here at the Stumpy Nubs workshop, but nothing quite as important as that giant cone that we built last time. If you haven't seen it, here's a quick recap. The result is this giant cone, which is quite beautiful, if I do say so myself. The result is one big old barrel. Now, the size that we made was 18 inches in diameter, and I didn't just pull that out of the air. I mean, we're not just making this stuff up as we go along. No, that was based on the testing that Bill Pence conducted. He found building a cyclone out of wood is a lot like drinking a cold one on a hot day. Very refreshing with just the right amount of splinters. If that didn't make any sense to you, it shows you're paying attention, which is good because you're going to need to be focused while we start going over some pretty technical blower stuff.
A cyclone is just a giant funnel unless you attach an appropriately sized blower. Too small and the cyclone itself will rob all of the suction power. Too big and it will suck the chips out before the cyclone can do its work. Stumpy's cyclone design is based on the careful research of dust collection guru Bill Pence. Bill determined that fine dust collection requires a blower generating 1,000 cubic feet per minute of airflow.
In the last episode, we started on the cyclone itself. But now it's time to choose a blower, and then I want to find out why it's called a blower and not a sucker. So I'm going to run those questions by Bill Pence while you check out this next segment. There aren't many woodworkers that are smarter than I am, but Charles Neal is one of them. And this week, he has a tip for us.
But if you get a pipe clamp dent, take some good, really hot water. The hotter the better. And everybody knows this, and the hot water will typically swell it out. If it doesn't, then you need to steam it a little bit. Now there's another trick that we do, and I'm going to show it to you. Now this is mostly for the new guys. Most of the old guys have been around here a while. I already know about this one. This is some denatured alcohol. Now what happens, and it may take a couple times, but what happens is the alcohol burns above the wood, and it burns so fast that it doesn't actually burn the wood. There's a little teeny dent right there, and it's going, it's going away. Can you see it right here?
Thanks, Charles. Of course, Charles teaches fine woodworking over at cnwoodworking.com, so check it out. They say you're more likely to die in a bathtub than in an airplane. I say anyone dumb enough to try to fly in a bathtub has it coming. So Bill and I did some chatting about our lungs and emphysema and cancer. We had a great time. Finally, we got to blowers, but I'm going to let the narrator start you off.
If you spend some time reading through the carefully researched data on his website, you'll come to the conclusion that moving 1,000 cubic feet per minute is no easy task. While there's more than one way to do it, the most practical and safest way is with a well-made 15-inch impeller. Of course, you can't spin an impeller that large with a small motor, you just burn it up. Bill recommends 5 horsepower. Many dust collectors feature 1 to 2 horsepower motors with an 8 to 10-inch impeller. Despite inflated claims of up to 1,700 cubic feet per minute, once you actually hook them up to your machines, you'll find the actual airflow to be less than half of that.
I'm going to bottom line it for you. If you want anything more than just a chip collector, you're going to need to spend some money. ClearviewCyclones.com can set you up with a 5-horse motor and a 15-inch impeller inside a nice housing for about $800. Now that's a lot of lettuce. Is it worth it? Well, I'm not a doctor, but I do play one on the internet. So look at it from my shoes for a minute. After this episode airs, I'm going to get a ton of email from people telling me that sawdust is going to kill me. Then I'm also going to get a ton of email from people telling me that it's all just a bunch of hooey. Some of those people will know what they're talking about, others won't. Bill's website is full of sourced material from peer-reviewed medical journals saying that dust can be really dangerous. There's other sites that say just the opposite. Who do I believe? Well, I hope to have at least 40 or 50 years of breathing ahead of me. So that means if the don't worry about it crowd turns out to be wrong, it could mean a lung transplant in my distant future, and I don't know anybody willing to give me their lungs. On the other hand, if the dust will kill you crowd are the ones that are wrong, well, worst case scenario is I've had a great clean shop for all those years. I think you see where I'm going with this. The point is, do the research, talk to your doctor, visit Bill's website, and read all that data. Then get the best dust collection that you can afford, and if all that scratch is out of your price range, stick around and watch a little more of this show, because in future episodes we're going to be getting into some other options that are a little more affordable, like air filters and masks that make breathing a real breath of fresh air.
Want to impress your friends? Then just go to stumpynubs.com and click on the tab that says Stumpy Store. There you'll find plans for many of the projects you see on Blue Collar Woodworking, and you can help support the show.
So obviously, I've decided to go with the big dust collector. Problem is, I don't have an extra $800 laying around. So until I can convince Clearview to send me one of those great blowers that I can put on my wooden Cyclone to tell you how great it works and how great their website is over there, I'm just going to have to do a little poking around for other options. In fact, I got a test that I'm going to run. Now this is one of those don't try this at home kind of deals, because you'll probably burn down your shop if you don't do it right. I've been mulling this idea over in my coconut for a couple of years, mostly because I hate to spend a fortune on a giant blower when I already have a Harbor Freight dust collector that does a decent job at collecting the big stuff. Frankly, it would kill me to put my little green friend out to pasture. But then it hit me. If one Harbor Freight blower sucks, two would really suck. So I did some talking to some people who are smarter than I am, and I'm going to give something a try. I'm going to hook two Harbor Freight blowers together and put them on the top of my Cyclone. Now I'm told that doing this will cause the blowers to supercharge each other and possibly spin out of control, creating a black hole, maybe even destroying the earth. So I'm going to go put on my safety glasses while you watch this next segment. Since we're working on this big Cyclone for the next couple of weeks, I thought it'd be a good time to tell you about my favorite single-stage dust collector. Of course, you already know what that is. It's the 2-horsepower Central Machinery collector from Harbor Freight. I've had one for a long time, and it's ate more chips than me at a Super Bowl party. That would be crisps for our British friends. It costs something like $250. But if you go to a bookstore and you get a magazine like American Woodworker, a lot of times they have coupons for $100 off, sometimes even more. And you can pick them up on Craigslist from guys whose wives make them sell all the tools and move the car back into the garage. And that way, they're even cheaper. They move air just as much as the more expensive Jets and Grizzlies, and if you upgrade the filter to a canister, you'll get even better performance. Sure, they won't give you the same fine dust collection as the big Cyclones, but they sure beat a shop vac, and for that, they're one of my favorite things. When many people think of ancient Egyptian art, they imagine stone or precious metals. But the kingdom was home to some of the most skilled woodworkers of antiquity. The best surviving examples of their work were found in the tomb of Tutankhamun, including dozens of boxes, cabinets, and furniture. This stool was made from acacia wood, the only locally grown timber suitable for furniture construction, and was made with pegged mortise and tenon joinery that was strong enough to survive 3,000 years under a pile of objects cast into a corner by ancient tomb robbers.
Find everybody's favorite fat little woodworker on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and read his hilarious weekly woodworking blog at stumpynubs.com.
How do you connect two blowers together? Well, my first idea was to mount them side by side with a big Y. Turns out that doesn't work as well as you'd think. A better idea is to mount one to the back of the other, but it's not that simple either.
Even though Harbor Freight dust collectors claim to be 2 horsepower, realistic tests show them to be closer to 1600 watts, or about 1.6 horsepower. If you connect two together in series, the compounded airflow will be in excess of 1500 cubic feet per minute. That will cause impellers to spin a lot faster, and your motors will be pulling at least 3800 watts each, at least in theory. In practice, they will quickly burn up and might even set fire to your workshop. But if you restrict the airflow to just what the blowers can handle, it might protect your equipment while still maintaining the 1,000 cubic feet per minute of fine dust collection that you require.
What we're going to be doing is attaching a couple of digital meters to the motors so that we can monitor how much we're working them. Then we're going to put a blast gate right where they attach to the top of the cyclone so that we can regulate it to just the right amount of airflow. Now remember, this is something that we're experimenting on, not something you should try yourself. If you do it and you burn down the whole neighborhood, don't say Stumpy told you to. Meanwhile, it's time to start thinking about ductwork. I'm going to be building my own out of wood, but to get the skinny on that, you're going to have to watch the next episode. And we're also going to be working on a ceiling-mounted air filtration unit for the whole shop, so you want to stick around. The regular, everyday woodworkers who make up the bulk of our audience, they're the heart and soul of the craft. So from time to time, I like to ask one of my fellow regular woodworkers a set of hard-hitting questions just to see what makes them tick. This time, we're happy to have Marty Hyatt from Martinsville, Indiana. Or Hyatt. Hyatt! I don't know how to pronounce it, but we're glad to have him. And his first question is, about how many hours a week do you spend in the shop?
About how many hours a week? In the winter, I'd say about 50.
Wow, it's more time than I spend awake most weeks. Question number 2, if you were a piece of wood, what kind of wood would you be?
I'd have to be something exotic like monkey pod.
Exotic. I thought I heard a bit of an accent. Question number 3, tails or pins?
Well, I've always been taught tails first, so we'll go with that.
That's correct. We also would have accepted pins, or I don't give a rip. Question number 4, what's your favorite inexpensive tool?
What's your favorite inexpensive tool? It'd be a pencil.
Ooh, good one. Why do you hate pens? No answer? Well, we'll move on to question number 5. Who's your favorite woodworking icon?
Woodworking icon. Roy Underhill's little brother, Randy.
Ah, I see. Well, thanks for playing Ask an Amateur, Marty. Block planes are the little brothers of the hand plane world. Never sharp enough, but easy to push around. But not all block planes are created equal. There's a few that you might want to keep around, and I have 4 favorites. First is your standard block plane. I use this for edge milling, maybe chamfering an edge or flush trimming a dowel. Rough sort of work. It doesn't have to be high-end because it's going to take a little bit of abuse. My second favorite is the adjustable mouth block plane. You can adjust this metal plate on the sole back and forth so that you can work around figured grain or prevent tear out and take an ultra thin shaving. Number 3 is the low angle block plane. This has a much steeper bed angle, so it's great for working on end grain. And number 4 is the one I actually use the most. This is an old Stanley number 102. It doesn't have a lot of frills, but it's small enough to fit in an apron pocket, and it's just the right size for a lot of jobs. Whether you use these or your own selection, the block plane is one of the most useful tools that you can have in your shop. Well, it's a new year. You know what that means. It means that you're a year older and 10 pounds fatter than you were this time of year last year. None of us are getting any younger. Just the other day, I found a mole in a place I don't even want to discuss. Of course, old is just a matter of perception. Look at me. I'm between the age of 30 and 50. And the pencil pushers tell me that our core audience is between 15 and 85. But one thing's for sure, your time is valuable. The very fact that you spend it here with me, watching a few minutes of blue-collar woodworking, may seem to contradict that. But I believe there's a good reason you're here. If you're one of our older viewers, it's probably that you just don't understand this whole internet thing and you can't figure out how to turn me off. If you're one of our younger viewers, well, you're probably sticking around waiting for me to lose a finger because you don't want to miss it. It's those of you in the middle that I really worry about. You middle-aged woodworkers who have families to spend time with, or mothers who want you to clean up your room. You could be out in the shop making something good, or at 7-Eleven serving a Slurpee to some teenager with a nose ring and an iPhone. But you choose to spend your time here with me and the guys at the Stumping Ups workshop. That's humbling, not too humbling, because I also realize that you probably watch half a dozen videos of people getting hit in the groin or falling off skateboards on YouTube before you accidentally stumbled on this show. But you stuck around all the way to the end, and I think you'll agree you're better off for it. Maybe you'll be inspired to go make something in the workshop. Maybe a small wooden boat carved out of a larger wooden boat, or a pile of sawdust in the shape of my head that you promised never to suck up with the shop vac. Whatever you do, do it with the knowledge that we'll be back here soon on your computer screen with another show, and we hope that you'll be here too, right back in your beanbag chair and your ice cream stained skivvies. Together, we'll sit back, and we'll have a cold one, because you've earned it, my friend.